Hi everyone, Sid here back in the car. I've had some dash mount problems, so please forgive me for the delay in this video. Before I move on though, one thing I do like about this dash mount is when it fails quickly. So basically, if I can make it out of the parking lot that I'm in, I'm good. So there are a couple of topics that I have wanted to talk to you about. But I think that considering what I want to talk to you about, if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it now. So I'd like to do another little rant on Gary Johnson because about a week ago, I saw an Adam Kokesh video, which I will link to below naturally. And it was basically about how Gary Johnson isn't a libertarian. And I agree, I totally get it. But I'd like to elaborate on that. But one thing that, two things, let's just say one. So one thing that struck me in this video, he came up with a term that I find is just brilliant to describe Johnson, which is he describes him as a libertarian-leaning moderate. And I think that is a fair summation based on the little exposure that I've seen. But there's another thing that struck out to me was how he wasn't withdrawing his support from him. And I think that this is a good summation of the whole Gary Johnson, the whole Gary Johnson conversation that I see on the internet, which is basically people who've never heard of him or people who are bitching about how he's not a libertarian. Those are the two main camps. And I gotta say, it is, first of all, I think that it's fascinating that, to me, Trump is better than Gary Johnson on the environment. Just to elaborate on that a bit, when I did my Trump versus Sanders head-to-head on the issues video, I mentioned that honestly, I like a lot of what Bernie Sanders has to say on the environment. However, the fact that he supports a carbon tax, I automatically disqualify him. And apparently Gary Johnson also supports a carbon tax. I haven't verified this for myself, nor do I care to verify it for myself for reasons that I covered in the last video. But if Gary Johnson actually does support a carbon tax, I have to apply to him the same standard that I applied to Sanders and just disqualify him, which would somehow still make Trump the best candidate for the environment in this election, which I find absolutely fascinating. But there's one message that I really want to get out to the people who are watching this. Is Gary Johnson a libertarian? Of course not. Is Gary Johnson the best option available right now? Hell yeah! And basically the summation of what I'm trying to say is, if you don't want to support Gary Johnson, stay the fuck out of his way. And on election day, there are a couple concrete things you can do to at least not get in his way. Obviously, voting for him is not getting in his way. It's the opposite. It's supporting him. But another way of not being in his way, of staying the fuck out of his way, is to not show up or to spoil your ballot. I think, obviously, those of you familiar with my channel know that I would rather you just not show up. But the whole idea of bitching about how Johnson isn't a libertarian and kind of just gumming up the works without at least making sure that you make his campaign run, as difficult as it is, as little, lower the difficulty as much as possible is what I'm trying to say. So Another thing that I wanted to point out is, and I really hope I'm not describing you, and honestly, I can't imagine a universe in which such a person would exist, but I'm sure that there are people out there. If your position boils down to Gary Johnson isn't a real libertarian, ... therefore Trump, or ... therefore Hillary Clinton, I would argue you're not a libertarian either, because I don't even know what to say. Like, compared to the Democrat or the Republican candidate, it's kind of obvious that, warts and all, he's miles ahead of the other two in terms of who would be the least damaging. And that also reminds me of a meme that I saw on Facebook the other day, which I found hilarious. It was a picture of, it was Donald Trump. No, it was Gary Sanders, Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton. And the text under it said, we get to choose which Democrat is the least harmful. And I found that absolutely hilarious. But the key to this message, the key to what I want to say is, I get that you're kind of underwhelmed by Gary Johnson. So am I, and I don't even live down there. But to encourage people, if you're going to encourage people to do anything on election day, please tell them to either not show up or spoil their ballot. If you don't feel like telling them to vote for Johnson, because just saying Gary Johnson isn't a real libertarian and leaving it at that, to many people hearing that, unfortunately, the conclusion in their own minds would be, oh, well, then I guess I'll vote for Trump or Clinton, which is kind of the opposite of what we want, including you, I'm assuming. And I'll also, another thing I'll mention to these people who rightfully, I might add, bitch about how Gary Johnson isn't a libertarian, it kind of goes into what I was saying in the last video. In my view, a real libertarian wouldn't even be running, which is why the whole Daryl Perry campaign still baffles me. I don't get why he's even involved in giving time in that shit, which is how consistent I noticed him in the C-SPAN debate. John McAfee, I kind of get, because consistency-wise, he's way up there, but I would advance a guess that having made lots of money in the corporate world would kind of give you a warm fuzzy feeling with regards to the political process and all that stuff. So John McAfee, I can kind of get why he's running. I don't know enough about his views to no true Scotsman him or not, and to disbar him from being a real libertarian. But in the two debates that I saw with him I didn't see anything that leaped out. Like, he wasn't getting any boos, as far as I remember, in the C-SPAN debate. Whereas Gary Johnson, the overall theme in Johnson's campaign, at least as far as debates are concerned, the overall theme in Gary Johnson's performance in debates is, I'll do whatever I think I can get away with, which I get, but it once again illustrates why libertarianism isn't electable. And if you want to play the game, as a libertarian, you either stick to your principles or you play to win, because I don't think you can do both. So if you somehow think that Gary Johnson is harming the Libertarian Party, by calling himself a libertarian and running under that banner. I would argue that, you know, if you want to keep the Libertarian Party where it is, maybe lower, and keep bragging about getting 1% of the vote as an accomplishment, then elect the most consistent libertarian you have. Elect the most, put the nominee as the most libertarian, the most consistent libertarian you can find, and, you know, have fun voting for him with your couple dozen other libertarian friends and no one else. But if you want to play to win, you're gonna have to water it down. I said this last time, and I still believe it. So I think that I've covered everything. I apologize for the rambliness. I'm a little tired, but I would encourage you to, you know, share your thoughts. I mean, I think that it's quite a discouraging election cycle to watch for me. The silver lining that I'm looking forward to is watching Trump absolutely demolish Clinton in debates. I think that the case that I've made, Hillary Clinton is not a witty person. All the witty shit that she says is in the can, prepared weeks or months in advance. And I think that Trump will run circles around her in debates. So no matter what the outcome is, at least I have that to look forward to. And libertarian or not, Gary Johnson is still better than Trump and Clinton put together times 50,000. Fuck. So yeah, I think that covered it all. Thank you very much for watching. Please leave comments below, like and share. If you would subscribe to me, please do that. It would mean a lot to me, seriously. And you'll find links to my social media below. And on that note, I wish you a good day, and I'll see you soon. You take care.